I am a musician, artist, songwriter, named Evalyn. Hi, Evalyn. Based in Los Angeles. I live on the west side in Santa Monica. And I feel like that's very deeply ingrained in my identity. I feel like that's who I am.
I love that. And, it's, of course, the day that we are doing this recording, it is Spotify Wrapped. And, as I'm like prepping for this interview today, I'm looking through my little Spotify playlist and I'm like, wait, I recognize a name in this playlist. I didn't know I had one of your songs on my playlist.
Oh my God, I love that. Do you know which
Um,
one?
it was, well, so I had two. I had the collaboration you did with J Wolf with One It
Yes.
All. That song had been on instant repeat since August, since it dropped.
I'm
And
so happy.
then what was the other one? Oh my God, what was the other one? The other one was one that we're gonna be discussing because I'm so curious as to why you did it was Creme de la Creme.
Yes, definitely. Oh, I'm so happy you like that one. That song's very near and dear to my heart. Honestly, that means so much to me. I think that like Spotify Wrapped always kind of tears me up a bit, honest to God. I think it's like we spend so much time, especially as songwriters and artists like who live in LA, so focused on the industry, who am I working with, what am I putting out next? And I feel like I get to take a second every time it comes out to really think about the people that are listening. Like yes, it's numbers, but I think I can really visualize like who those X number of people who have me as their number one artist. I mean, that is mind blowing to me and does like literally make me kind of emotional. And so I think that like that's super cool to hear that that I made your playlist. Like that's really meaningful to me. So thank you.
Yeah, it was like of all the times that this could happen, I was like, this is perfect. I get to
That's so
interview
great.
somebody and I get to say that. It's like to me that's super exciting as like as a fan and as someone who interviews a lot of artists, I love to be able to have that moment to be like, oh my God, I get to geek out in front of somebody that I've had on their playlist for a while.
Thank you. I love that so much. It made my day.
I'll what, I'll pop onto that question why as when working with a artist such as like, Jay Wolf or Lose the Child, um, and or even more recently, it's Merv. So when working with with all these artists, how much influence do you put into the song?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it really depends, but I have definitely learned over the years as someone who works a lot with dance acts that bringing as much of myself and my artistry and who I am as an artist as possible to the song actually really like tends to make the song more appealing and successful to listeners. I think I used to try and fit a format more. Um, uh, but definitely with those collaborations and more of the collaborations I work on, I try and just bring something that feels very uniquely me, my taste, my writing style to the project or to the song or whatever it is that I'm working on because I think that it's important. I have a voice and a perspective, and a lot of time I think that's what actually these dance acts want is in a collaboration to have the artist's voice and perspective. So I definitely always am mindful of what the act is like, what their sound is, what kind of stuff they've done in the past. I love to talk to a collaborator about that and really like keep that in mind, obviously, but it is really fun to kind of inject a lot of my own voice, sound, and art into these collaborations.
That's good to hear because I was always wondering when it comes to, 'cause with EDM music in general, it's a whole different ball game as opposed to writing a rock song because you're dealing with two different elements of tone and seeing how it blends, it just creates such a unique opportunity to showcase someone else. And I love that.
Oh yeah, and I think even some of those songs, I, you know, the my Lewis the Child collaboration, or even this one coming out, it's Murph, other collaborations I've done. Those are songs. Those songs have been kind of like in the process before that act even gets involved. So, I think that's a lot of times these songs are kind of like my heart and soul that I'm working on in the studio, or is kind of a stripped down version. And then, someone hears the bones of it and it's like, well, let's collaborate to make it something that we can both put out. Jai Wolf and I, we got in the studio together and really worked that from scratch, the two of us, which was really fun. But I think that sometimes it's someone hears something that feels very me and they're like, oh, I think it'd be cool if we did that together. So that feels really cool too.
So cool. That's so cool. I'm curious when it comes to like, just being in the studio together and writing the song. Um, was there any moment where you guys were like, did we push it too far or should we like pull back a little?
So interesting. So do you mean push it too far on the choices we were making in production or songwriting?
I think a combination of both.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that the one of my favorite things about working with other people is that you kind of have a built-in sounding board. So, on like One It All, for instance, it was me and Sajib, but there were also, two other people involved, an artist Lynx and an artist Rishi, who's amazing, and also another artist Mern actually. And throughout the process, maybe Sajib and I worked on the lyrics, the two of us, and we really kind of honed that in. But you had these other people who would step in and contribute other pieces. And every step of the way, that means there's kind of a sounding board for someone saying, oh, you know what? I don't really like this. And like, I don't love that. So I think that, it's really just when you get to a certain place where you trust your collaborators, there's this like natural space to play in, where I think again, there's so much trust, you don't always doubt yourself.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. But, in this new realm that you're in, you trust yourself enough to re-release an entire new album,
Yes.
completely just like changed up a lot. I cannot wait for everybody to hear Salvation, but we get to have a little bit of a taster next this week. We get to hear a little bit of a taster of new song Nightmare, which is amazing. I'm actually really excited to hear this one like on my playlist.
So excited to talk about this. I'm so grateful that you have given me a little space to discuss it and bring it up. Yeah, I put out this album in 2018. It was at the time, I think, a little bit of an interesting choice. It's very like a little bit kind of a psychedelic influence, poppy, but it was kind of a concept record. I had just come off some big, like, kind of Spotify hitting songs, and some of my friends were like, "What are you doing, girl?" And I'm like, "I'm doing me." So what's funny is I put it out and I moved on with my life. I wasn't sure that did very well commercially or whatever. But over time, so many people would reach out to me about like not just songs on there like Creme de la Creme or like A Pill to Crush, but about the whole record in general. And I was always so honored. And over time, it's actually gotten more and more significant that I like the number of people I hear from about the record. So I before I went and put out a bunch of new music, which I'm hoping to do next year, I really thought that I wanted to go back and give something to those fans who have stuck with me. I really wanted to thank them for what they had done sticking by me and listening to this niche little record that I put out. So, when I first put it out too, I didn't have a ton of budget, time. Like I was, I couldn't give everyone what they wanted. Like what I had envisioned for Salvation, vinyl, merch, all sorts of different art made by like, artists and visual artists that I wanted to work with. I couldn't accomplish that. So I said to myself, like, I want to do this and I want to put it out with, stripped versions and a new song from like kind of Taylor Swift vault style. And I want to do, all those things that I didn't get to do before as really like a love letter to those fans that like stuck by me and listened to that music. Because now I think I'm more active than I have been the past couple of years, but I had to like go back to my original, fans who supported me and give something.
I love that. And you know what? With the Salvation re-release, it does kind of have that Taylor version as to it when you introduce the idea of adding new twists to the album, and even a new song, which is Nightmare. Um I love this album so far. Like I love that it just feels different, but it feels good. And I had to like re-listen to the album. I'm like, I know there's certain things that you did differently, and you can honestly tell right away. And it's like, oh shit, I love this new version though.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really excited. And it was like very emotional re-recording it as well. And but yeah, I also just think things like going back and re-listening to these old Taylor Swift albums, right? Like Taylor's version.
Yep.
And she had a really specific reason for doing that. And going back and like re-falling in love with old albums, that's such a amazing way to kind of like re-explore something that you've loved and that's nostalgic. And so yeah, like why not give more to like more stuff for something that we already love? Like I think that we're in such a world right now musically of more is more, tons of songs coming out, highly saturated artist market, highly saturated song market. And so I think, you know, one of the greatest things that I can think of is to have staying power and to, you know, have people want to engage with you outside of just Spotify and social media.
Yeah. I am curious as to why you turn Big Bad City into a like a little bit faster pace.
Yeah. Well, this is also such a fun, creative endeavor for me. I have always wanted to hear that song faster. It's, you know, one of those things where I think I've always loved the song and people seem to love it. But in hindsight, I was like, oh, damn, I wish I could have like sped the tempo up a bit or whatever. So it was my space also to just kind of like run wild with ideas. And so I kind of just chose to do that one sped up. It felt very, you know, I think that's a thing that people are doing right now too, is the sped up version or collective ADHD going on. But I also really love the idea that like 5 years went very fast. And that song is about being in your like 20s and partying and not knowing which way is up. And so I think that was some symbolism there for me too.
And yeah, gosh, I feel like that is a crazy trend right now. Just everyone speeding up everything. I think it was that Oliver Tree just turned his whole entire album straight into speed run, and I was like, you don't need to, but I get it.
Yeah, totally. And you know what's funny is I sometimes have felt very allergic to trendy things, but I
Yeah.
think the more involved I get with as a songwriter, paying attention to what's happening in the cultural zeitgeist and what people love, the more I'm like, yeah, actually, I kind of get it. Like it's really fun to have different versions of things. And sometimes you're in the car driving slow and feeling your feels and you want the original version. And sometimes you're out with your friends and you want the fast version. And I kind of love just
Yeah.
the way the culture absorbs music.
Yeah, I love that. And gosh, I know we're trending too far out into the future wise. So um I want to know how the writing process for Nightmare.
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay, so I wrote that song in the original kind of era when I put out Salvation. So it was around 2018. I wrote half of it. I loved it. I think I actually was pitched around to some DJs, but everyone kind of told me it sounds very you, like almost to you to make a collaboration out of it. And I was like, damn, okay. But it didn't feel right for Salvation. I think it was like written toward the tail end of that process. And so after years of people being like, God, I love this song, you have to find something to do with it. But it felt very like grandiose and kind of epic, and I wasn't sure where it fit. When we went to do this new kind of re-release, I was so focused on like the visuals and the alt versions, I didn't really think about doing a new song. And then I had a couple people be like, this song would be so good. It's the time to put it out. So I worked with an incredible duo, a production duo who have been executive producers on this whole re-release. They're called Chapters, Simon and Luke. They're my boys, are the best. But they got back in with me and we finished it. It was so hard to rewrite something from 5 years ago. I was struggling, but I feel like we really locked it in and got it to a place where I felt so proud of it. And also, it's not completely Salvation. I did all of that with an amazing producer named Nico Pop. But it felt like it was walking a line between the past and the future of what's to come musically for me. So that was really fun.
And I was gonna ask you about the producing wise, because like you said, you worked with Nico with the entire first album, and I was curious on the second album, how that the second re-release. I'm so glad. So Nico came back to help you on this one, or
Nico Pop and I like did the entire first one together. He's amazing. He's an incredible producer. It was such a gift for us to do that original record together. He did not do the production on this one.
okay.
I am working on a lot of new music with Chapters, and so Nico was so helpful and gracious about it. And Chapters did a lot of the, you know, the new production on the new songs, which are Creme de la Creme and A Pill to Crush, and the sped up Big Bad City, and then Nightmare. So it was really kind of fun again to bring this like older world of my music to kind of a new space that I've been working in.
You know, when going into re-releasing and thinking about reimagining and remixing couple songs. Why were those two in particular the ones you chose?
Yeah, that's such a great question. It definitely was hard to choose because I have some favorites on there. But again, this one was for the people who have been listening to this and stuck by me. And I honestly like relied on them to tell me. Like I, posted some polls and things on my Instagram. People spoke up. Those honestly, Big Bad City, we sped it up, but those were the three that people asked for. And so to me, I was like, all right, I'm on a mission. Let's do this. You guys want it? Let's go for it. So I think a Pill to Crush felt already so it's so epic, and I think that's where so much of the emotion comes from, and so we really wanted to give like a cinematic space for that one. And then I it was actually Chapters who came up with the idea to do a full vocoder version of Creme de la Creme. And I was so teary in the studio doing that because the original is so like bombastic and fun and
Yeah.
youthful. And this was kind of almost like a letter to my younger self going back and singing it in this way that felt so vulnerable, but also so like, yeah, like stick with your gut and live the way you want to live. And that's exactly what you should have done. So it was really sweet to be able to do those, not just for myself, but for the fans and for my younger self. It was a very cool process.
Creme de la Creme's on my playlist. It's on my, 2023 Spotify rap list. It's not, I can't tell you if it's on the top because it's right now covered with Arctic Monkeys, but
That too.
um,
Oh
but the fact that it's on there and then to find out, it's getting reimagined and remixed, it's such a cool experience to be able to like kick in and be like, oh, this is what's gonna look like.
yeah.
Oh, this sounds amazing. I'm excited to see how far up the playlist is gonna be for next year. I don't know when that timer kind of starts.
Hell yes. Thank you. I love that.
So, a couple little conversation cards just so that more fans get to know you on a fun level. Ready for it?
Perfect. Mhm.
All right. Here. When was the last time you surprised yourself?
Ooh, that's a great question. When was the last time I surprised myself? Oh, you know what? I recently it's music related. My life at home is so calm. I am such a house cat, so I feel like it should be more personally development stuff. But actually, no, it was I did a show at the Shrine with It's Murph recently, and he was opening for Side Piece, and I showed up and I had been doing a bunch of shows with Jai Wolf this year. And at those shows, I have in ears, I do a sound check, I get on stage, I'm singing the whole song. It's very like formulaic. And so I got to this show and it was still like we did a sound check. It was great, but it was a little more like going rogue. And there was a little gap between the stage and these big speakers you could stand on. And
Oh,
and also I had never done the song live with him before. We didn't have in-ear monitor systems. And also the song has like a lot, as people who will have now heard, it has a lot of like kind of like chops and echoes in the melody. It has like a stutter feel, so I'm not singing every portion of it. So it's not as by the books about what parts to sing, what not to sing. And I remember being like, oh, okay, like this is nerve wracking.
yeah.
Just to make sure I like land it right. You want to like do a really good job when someone brings you out because you're part of their show. Like it's really important to me to do a good job. And I remember I got on stage and I had so much fun with it. It's Murph is the best. And I jumped onto those speakers and I felt like I really could be intuitive with the performance instead of like super focused. Like I felt very comfortable. And I think
Yeah.
I surprised myself in that way, in that I don't think I had realized how much getting to do those big shows with Jai Wolf had really kind of shown me how to be on a stage and to feel really comfortable. And so I was like pleasantly surprised by that. And I was like, wow, this is a really cool skill that I feel like I've worked on this year. And I got to like really experience that for that show.
I love that. And so, um, are you planning on doing any kind of touring for this re-release?
As of right now, no, it probably won't be for the end of this year. I do have this vision of doing some shows, just like I would love to do Salvation beginning to end just one or two times in my life. I think the fans have also let me know that that's something they would want.
Yeah.
I'm also really, and I won't say too much about this, I'm really excited for what's coming next. This is really a primer, and it's going to be really fun, and a lot more like up tempo and in that dance space. So I'm definitely, I'm looking forward to doing performances. What that looks like and when it happens, I don't know yet. You have to stay tuned.
Ooh, I love that. Here, what is an unwritten rule that you believe everybody should follow?
Oh, um, treat like this is so basic and generic, but treat other people how you'd want to be treated. Like I just think this year has also shown me that the people at the top who treat other people with kindness and who are respectful, that comes back to them tenfold. I try and always be really kind and respectful. What, like whoever it is, like just treat everyone well. And I think that in my personal life too. Like I think it's just so important to be good to people. You don't need to be someone who feels like you get walked all over or who doesn't command respect, but do so while being good to other people.
A standard rule.
Such a basic one, but I do think it's so true. Like be good to everyone. Be good to your barista, be good to your, friends, be good to your friends. Like just be good to people, be good to people you work with. Like be good to everyone. And treat yourself well too. Like I think that's really important to be said in there as well.
What do you exaggerate the most about?
Oh my God. I exaggerate about everything. If Nancy were here, he'd be like, whoa, that's like her side hustle. It's just exaggerating and being dramatic. I'm a maximalist. I believe more is more in the studio. I'm always like, push it. Let's do the most. Let's be the most ridiculous. Like, I, everything in my life is just maximal. More is more. So I think exaggeration is part of my art form. Like, when I'm on stage, I'm wearing sparkles. I got a lot of hair. Like, I think that exaggeration, I look at like Dolly Parton as such an inspiration in what she does. Like, it's part of self expression for me. So, great question. I exaggerate fucking everything. Oop, I'm not sure if I can swear. Sorry.
You can swear, it's fine. I run the
You got it.
like I do everything here. So
Okay. Yeah.
when you say maximalism, I am exactly what you're talking about too. I
Yes.
agree with you.
Yes, girl. Yes. I fucking love some maximalism.
What would you do to pass time if you were stuck in an elevator for hours?
Oh, oh my Woo! Okay, so this is a such a funny side thing but I talk about a lot. So I am very I have OCD and
Okay.
I am very involved in like mental health. I got my master's in psychology recently. I did it
Well,
at night.
congrats.
Thank you. It's just something I'm incredibly passionate about, having struggled with it personally and having a lot of family who struggles with it. So getting trapped in an elevator would be one of my worst nightmares, but I always have this, I call it like an anxiety toolbox. So
Oh,
therapists give me, but I always keep like a couple of things on deck for if I'm ever like in a situation that's causing me stress. So if I were going to be stuck in an elevator for hours, I'm assuming I don't have any card games or anything fun, my like, Nintendo Switch. I'd probably do things like breathing exercises, breath, like definitely like box breathing. I'd probably do some like color and number games. I would do absolutely anything to keep myself calm. And if I had cell phone service, I would probably just be like cruising on online, trying to get help or looking at Instagram.
gosh. No, pretty much almost the same. I don't know about the box one. What is that one?
Oh my gosh, it's the best. So box
Okay.
breathing is breathe in for 4 counts. You hold your breath for 4 counts. You breathe out for four
Oh,
counts. You hold your breath for 4 counts. You breathe in and you continue that cycle. It's really, truly one of my absolute favorite things in the whole world for stressful situations or even just
okay.
any anxiety. It's really, really helpful.
I think my therapist I called it the 4x4, but I didn't know it was also called a box.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, okay, okay. Okay. What's the strangest thing to say while lost in a flood of tears? Like just as you're crying, I don't know if it's just a bad breakup.
Ooh, that's so good. I love crying. I cry all the time.
Trying to think
Uh,
of, trying to think one for myself because I'm
I know, right? I'm trying to think of something funny. Like, you seem like just love Kevin Bacon so much. You know what I mean?
yeah.
While you're going, I feel like I just like can't. I'm overcome with emotion. But I could see myself doing that anyway, so that's not even that strange. That's another one where I think nothing that came out of my mouth while sobbing would surprise like the people closest to me.
So if you're like, okay, so if you're gonna be crying and talking about Kevin Bacon, I would be like in tears, being like, there's 7 ways to connect Kevin Bacon to other things. Did you know that?
Yes,
And just be like, that's all I'm gonna connect it to is that the 7 way to the I think it's called 7 ways to bacon or something like that.
yes. So I know the 7 degrees of
Or
Kevin
so,
Bacon.
yeah, 7 degrees. Thank you.
And I'm
I would
only thinking, yeah, I, and how did Kevin Bacon pop into my mind? I don't know, honestly, though.
I'm over here being like, okay, more likely I would be axing. I would probably be crying because someone wants me to call in for to do carry out or take out and whatnot, and they don't want to call themselves, so they'll call me. They'll have me do it. I'll be like, yeah, I need a half grinder, steak and cheese.
Exactly. I like to like I gotta like perfect my fake cry, but I do a pretty good fake cry. Like I'm so sick, I can't come to the session today.
Here, well, let's do we'll do one last one here. Um, what should you never whisper to somebody as they fall asleep?
Oh, I'm gonna kill you. That's what you should never whisper. Kill you. But like I could see myself pranking my fiance by doing that. I think he would sleep soundly though. He knows that I wouldn't.
You'd be like, yeah, yeah, no problem. All right.
He'd be like, all right, shut up.
Okay. Sure.
You're crazy.
Is that a Kevin Bacon line?
Yeah, I just love Kevin Bacon so much. That's what you would whisper into someone's ears if they're falling asleep for
Yeah,
value and randomness.
just slowly be like, there's 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon to you. You know that, right? Knock out
Exactly.
for the day. All
Um,
right. So with that being said, so this week you have Nightmare coming out. This is a horrible transition.
wow. No transition is horrible. I loved an abrupt transition.
I feel like you're just cutting time here and just going right into it. So you have Nightmare coming out this week, and then next week you have the re-release. And
Mhm.
like we said earlier, you have nothing happening in terms of shows for you. Are you jumping in on any shows for anybody else, especially during like the New Year's?
Not right now. I'm going to enjoy some peace and quiet over the new year. And then I am a studio rat these days. I'm like a homebody studio rat. Catch me in the studio, but that does mean that there's a lot of new music on the way, which I'm so excited about next year. And who knows? I didn't expect to be singing at Coachella this time last year, and then I got to this year. So you never really know what's going to happen. My like palms are up, and I'm sure you'll see me doing something.
With that being said, where can we find you? Oh my God, how do I mess that line up? I say that line almost all the time.
I love it. You can find me on Instagram, and you can listen to my music on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere music exists. I also have, videos on YouTube, and I have a brand new music video coming out for Nightmare, which will be this week by the time this airs. So find me on YouTube, and also if you happen to have one of my songs on your Spotify Wrapped like you did, please hit me up and let me know. It means the world to me. It's so exciting. And thank you so much for listening and following and all the things.